Shabbat Shalom. It's not Shabbat, is it? Shana Tova. Happy New Year. Wrong autopilot. It's a great pleasure to welcome you here in person and those online as well. We have our roomers, we have our Zoomers, we have our YouTube live streamers. It's a pleasure to have all of you here, and of course we have those who will be watching this in the future of any known undeterminate time. And so it is a great pleasure to have you here to celebrate Rosh Hashana with us today. We had our first hybrid Rosh Hashana celebration last night. I think it went very well. We had about 50 people in the room. We had 105 screens watching on Zoom and another 40 people or so watching on the YouTube live stream, which is actually more people than we'd have in a room if we were doing it only in person. Some of the advances of the last year. We are here at the beginning of a new Jewish year, 5782, and we know that new beginnings are an opportunity to start fresh, to feel like we have a clean slate, to take a new step forward. But we also know that we do not create from nothing. That which existed before today, before this new year, is still a part of who we are and is still defining of the world in which we live. So as we explore these new possibilities today, let us remember that the experiences of the last 12 months, the last 12 years, our whole lifetime, indeed, even before we were alive, are part of the foundation, the roots in which we grow. So as we create anew, we also build on what came before. Our service begins on page 1 of the Rosh Hashana morning section. You can see at the header on the top that. And for those online, by the way, if you're watching on Zoom and you do not want to see the subtitles scrolling through, I understand the Hebrew is particularly amusing when it's trying to translate it into English for the subtitles. You can certainly hide those. You just find the CC button and you can hide the subtitles if you choose. If you want them, then by all means leave them on. So we begin on page 1 of the Rosh Hashana morning service with a song that celebrates being together. Our marvelous choir had the opportunity to pre-record a number of our songs, which they'll be singing, and this one we'll hear the choir sing, and then we will have a chance to all sing together as well. In person. What does it mean to be in person? Is it our body on a map, in a building, at a place? Is that in person? You can be physically in person and mentally wander through imagination into memory and beyond walls. In person must be more and different. Full presence, focus and calm, to think and to be. We can be present in person from many places. There is no one location to be in agreement. There is no one place to be in love. There is no one space to be in touch. Why should place decree if we are in person or not? Start the new year intent, introspective, insightful, inspired, and wherever you are, in person.
Okay. Integrity is public and private, personal and social, words and deeds.
Integrity means that we say what we believe and we believe what we say. In our integrity affirms that we are the same person in Hebrew and in English, synagogue and public square, special moments and any moment, holiday and every day. If our ancestors believed differently, we cherish their integrity as we do ours. When we agree, we find strength in honest roots. We honor them by celebrating our Judaism as deeply believed as they did.
We are what we say and what we do. Our intentions and emotions may be kind and generous, but if what we say and what we do are hurtful and hateful, no one will ever know our better nature. Indeed, our hands and our mouths speak the truth better than we realize. What we truly value, what we truly believe, we express in how we live.
Far easier to want to do good than to do it, to consider asking forgiveness than to ask. Far stronger to face our true selves, to acknowledge our failures, and to demand more. Integrity is not public perception. Integrity is integrating who we think we are with who we really are, transforming our ideal selves into our actual self, making who we want to be the person we are becoming.
Jewish and human, too. Just be a person, says one voice. All these borders and boundaries, these cities and ethnicities, they are walls between people, barriers to break through, not positive connections of mature affection. I had higher aspirations for you. Be a person. Affirm a common humanity. That is your best identity.
Who are you, if not a Jew, asks another. Your family, by birth or choice, or your name or holiday, they give you away. Perhaps your heart's feeling at the sounds of your youth. Your language, your sentiment, betray a deeper truth. So you doubt, question, challenge.
Challenge, schmallenge.
Nothing is new under the sun, we wrote. So deny tradition, a veto, or even a vote. There's little you can do. You're a Jew. In the old tradition, both are true. See the world from your particular. Be particular with a wider view. For us, Jewishness and humanity, two eyes give depth and clarity, capacity to see, to weep, and to smile, to emote beyond word or culture. Each eye is beautiful and flawed and needed in its own way, for its own ends.
Know who you are and make that, transform that, live that. in a spirit of full humanity.
The simple solution? A mensch is a person, the fullest kind to a T.
Yiddish says it most efficiently, being Jewish is as human as we make it to be.
Steht auf Woche ohne Tracht, Tracht und Tracht die ganze Nacht. Wärmen zu nehmen und nicht verschämen, Wärmen zu nehmen und nicht verschämen. Tumbala, 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 laika, tumbala, 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 laika, tumbala, laika, spiel.
For thousands of years, we have been writing the real Bible, and it is being written from day to day, and it will never be finished while we have life. All the facts that we know, all the truly recorded events, all the discoveries and inventions, all the wonderful machines whose wheels and levers seem to think, all the poems, crystals from the brain, flowers from the heart, all the songs of love and joy, of smiles and tears, the great dramas of imagination's world, the wondrous paintings, the miracles of form and color, of light and shade, the marvelous marbles that seem to live and breathe, the secrets told by rock and star, by dust and flower, all the wisdom that lengthens and ennobles life, all that avoids and cures disease or conquers pain, all the just and perfect laws and rules that guide and shape our lives, all thoughts that feed the flames of love, the music that transfigures and raptures and enthralls, the victories of heart and brain, the miracles that hands have wrought, the histories of noble deeds, of conflicts for the right, of sufferings for the truth, of all the best that all the men and women of the world have said and thought and done through the years. These treasures of the heart and brain, these are the sacred scriptures of the human race. At Kol Hadash, we learn from the Torah, and we also learn from all the accumulated wisdom of our people. And so in that spirit, I invite those here to rise as we remove both the symbol of our knowledge and our source for this morning.
La la la
There are many lines drawn on many maps in the world. Some lines match visible barriers between lands. Other lines are lines in the sand that are pure human invention. There are many lines drawn between peoples in the world. Sometimes we use the power of religious belief and cultural conflict to highlight the differences and strengthen walls. Last night's story on the 10th plague killing the firstborn of Egypt while sparing the Israelites is but one example. These lines between people are also human inventions, but that does not make them any less real in human experience. After all, money and calendars are also human inventions. For that matter, so too are religion and culture. Rosh Hashana is not a cosmic observance. It is a human one, projecting our order onto the world. In Yehuda Amichai's poem, Jerusalem, written before 1967, when the old city of Jerusalem was held by the Kingdom of Jordan, Amichai contemplates a common humanity to be found across a hostile border and the human costs of the human conflict. I will read this poem alternately in Hebrew and in English. Al gag ba'ir ha'atika, kavisa mu'eret ba'or acharon shel yom. On a roof in the old city, laundry hanging in the late afternoon sunlight. Saldin lavan shel oyevet, magevet shel oyev, lenagev ba et ze'at apo. The white sheet of a woman who is my enemy, the towel of a man who is my enemy, to wipe off the sweat of his brow. Uvishme ha'ir ha'atika afifon. In the sky of the old city, a kite. Uvikse achut yeled, shelo ra'iti oto biglal hachoma. At the other end of the string, a child I cannot see because of the wall. He'elinu harbe degalim, he'elu harbe degalim. We have put up many flags. They have put up many flags. Kadei shenachshov shehem smechim, kadei sheyachshavu she'anachnu smechim. To make us think that they are happy, to make them think that we are happy. Please rise as we return our wisdom to the ark.
are always reasons for pessimism, what little justice humanity has managed to create is far outpaced by the tragedies of human cruelty in an indifferent universe. The attractions of virtue are meager, and the temptations of vice are many. Advances in science and technology have made death and suffering more possible in our world than at any time in human history.
How much greater the courage than to acknowledge these realities than to refuse to be defined by them? How much stronger to face injustice with renewed commitment, to affirm virtue in the face of vice, to use our new power for good and not for evil? How much more inspirational to face human challenges with the courage to hope?
Whom would you follow? The one who curses the darkness, or the one who lights a lamp to show the way we must go?
We are moved by many things, by music, by words, poetry and prose, beautiful images, and sometimes by silence. Learning to be with ourselves, to reflect, to think, to breathe, these are all skills that each of us needs for calm, for focus, and for rededication to purpose. And so at this moment in our service, I've created a space for silent reflection. If you choose to read the optional poem, you may feel free to do so. You may close your eyes and breathe. But let us all take this moment to pause, to reflect, and to give ourselves a space to simply be. as we return together, our service continues with a song that celebrates the changing and passage of time, but also what remains eternally with us.
Death needs courage. Death is so overwhelmingly final that it fills our lives with dread and anxious fear. When it arrives at the end of a long and happy life, it is never welcome and yet not deeply resented. But when it comes too soon, invading young lives, disrupting hopes and dreams, it adds anger to our fear. We cry out at the injustice of destiny and wait for answers that never seem to come. Courage is the power to confront a world that is not always fair. It is the refusal to beg for what will never be given. It is the willingness to accept what cannot be changed. Courage is loving life even in the face of death. It is sharing our strength with others. Even when we feel weak, it is embracing our family and friends even when we fear to lose them. It is opening ourselves to love, even for the last time. Courage is self-esteem. It prefers quiet determination to whining. It prefers doing to waiting. It affirms that exits, like entrances, have their own dignity.
Each of us is alive in the world because there were others who gave us life. Many of them, parents, grandparents, and beyond, are no longer with us to celebrate the joyous times or to reflect on the difficult times of life. And yet we still love them. We still remember them and hold them in our hearts. Even as we celebrate, we know that they are a part of us in the lessons they lived, that we learned, and in the gifts they gave us that we still use. And so I invite us in this room, if you would stand for a moment. we pause in our services and rise for two occasions. One is the removal of the Torah, representing the wisdom of the past, and the other is a moment of memorial, reflecting on our love for the past and the love the past had for us. Let us pause for a moment of silent tribute. In Jewish life, we say, Zecher Tzadikim Livracha, the memory of good people is a blessing to us. And now please be seated as we hear a song of love. A rabbinic story set 2,000 years ago explains a Jewish disaster, the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 of the Common Era. A certain man had a friend named Kamsa and an enemy named Bar Kamsa. The man once made a party and told his servant, "Go bring Kamsa." The man went and brought Bar Kamsa. When the host found him there, he said, "You are mocking me. What are you doing here? Get out." Bar Kamsa, his enemy, said, "Since I am here, let me stay and not be thrown out. I will pay you for whatever I eat and drink." The host said, "No." "Then let me give you half the cost of the party." "No," said the other. "Then let me pay for the whole party." The host still said no, took him by the hand, and threw him out. Bar Kamsa said to himself, "Since the rabbis were sitting there at the party and did not stop him from humiliating me, this showed they agreed with him. I will go inform against them to the Roman government." Bar Kamsa went and said to the emperor, "The Jews are rebelling against you." The emperor said, "How can I tell?" Bar Kamsa said, "Send them an animal offering and see if they will sacrifice it." So the emperor sent him with a fine calf. On the way, Bar Kamsa made a mark on its upper lip, where Jews count it a disqualifying blemish, but Romans do not. The rabbis were inclined to offer it anyway in order to not offend the government. Rabbi Zechariah disagreed. People will say that blemished animals are being offered on the altar. They then proposed to kill Bar Kamsa so he would not go and inform against them. Rabbi Zechariah again disagreed. Is a person who only makes a blemish on holy animals to be put to death? Years later, Rabbi Yochanan remarked, "Through the scrupulousness of Rabbi Zechariah, our house has been destroyed, our temple burnt, and we ourselves exiled from our land." Rabbi Yochanan was wrong. It was not only Rabbi Zechariah being a stickler for the rules that destroyed the Second Temple. And you can debate what you might have done if you were Zechariah. Would you undermine faith in the temple's purity? Or would you kill someone who was only a little guilty for the collective good? The Jerusalem temple was also destroyed by the hatred between Bar Kamsa and the party host who would not be appeased, and Bar Kamsa's hatred for the rabbis that in the end stirred up conflict between Jews and Romans. Elsewhere in the Talmud, the rabbis declared that the first temple was destroyed centuries earlier for 3 sins: worshiping idols, forbidden sexual relations, and bloodshed. But during the second temple, the people studied Torah, obeyed commandments, and did acts of loving kindness. So why did disaster strike again? This time, the rabbis blame sinat chinam, baseless hatred, which must be as bad as idolatry, forbidden sex, and bloodshed altogether, since it caused a similar disaster. The party host, Bar Kamsa, and the rabbis were caught in a flood of hatred that consumed all of them and their society as well. Plagues and other disasters rarely fly solo. If we agree, as we explored last night, that disasters have causes in the real world, but not cosmic reasons in the heavens, then our task is not to suffer through disasters in pious silence. Our responsibility is to understand disaster and then learn how to mitigate and prevent it as best we can. We spoke on Rosh Hashana evening about the plague of the COVID pandemic and what we can learn. And one of those lessons I touched on was the emptiness of the cliche, "We're all in this together." In one way, yes, but in many ways, no. Because there is a second plague, a slow-moving and often hidden disaster that predates coronavirus, a plague that made it worse and will outlive it as well, the plague of hate and indifference. It may be that love makes the world go round, and all we need is love. But if you examine how we actually treat each other, especially how we treat our enemies like Bar Kamsa, maybe a better song title is, "What's Love Got to Do with It?" You might think that after the Babylonian exile, when the Jews finally returned and rebuilt the Jerusalem temple, that they would find a way to get along. You might have thought that, as long as you had never met 3 actual Jewish people and then watched them disagree. The Second Temple era is noted for arguments between varying approaches to Judaism, power struggles between priestly families, a Maccabean civil war between Jewish fundamentalists and Jewish Hellenizers, debates over how to respond to the Roman occupation of Judea, and ultimately a great and disastrous revolt that saw Jerusalem destroyed again, Jews exiled again, and renewed questions of why. This time, the rabbis settled on baseless hatred. But the problem with accepting baseless hatred as the reason and trying to avoid it in the future is that most people believe that their hatred is not baseless. I have very good reasons for hating those jerks. Even die-hard anti-Semites claim to have good reason for their hatred. Now, their reason is supposed evidence for a global Jewish financial conspiracy using the media to undermine traditional religion and national identity in favor of globalist capital and socialist government. It doesn't have to make sense to us for them to consider their hatred well-based. There's a story about a man in a bar railing on and on about all the problems in the world, and he says, "For this, I blame the Jews." And another man pipes up and says, "Yes, the Jews and the bicycle riders." Why the bicycle riders? Why the Jews? We are all in this together. Some of us are rowing towards shore while others are drilling holes in the bottom of the boat. Some parents are screaming at teachers and school administrators. The teachers are trying to keep kids safe. And those angry parents think that the schools are either harming their children's socialization or health by making them wear masks, or they are being trained to unquestionably obey authority. Political opponents are not just wrong, they are evil. At best, they are only promoting evil. Red states and blue states does not really describe the map. Think Illinois between downstate and Chicago. It's not even red counties and blue counties. It's red houses and blue houses, even red siblings and blue siblings. We're all in this together. Some of us in this storm are in yachts, while others are in leaky canoes. Think of another unity cliche. In 1883, American Jew Emma Lazarus wrote, "Until we are all free, we are none of us free." Almost 90 years later, civil rights activist Fannie Lou Hamer said, "Nobody's free until everybody's free." Is that really true? Landowning white Protestant men have been free and full citizens of the United States since 1789. Everyone else had to work towards that goal since then. Perhaps MLK Jr.'s version of this is closer to reality. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If the systems are corrupt, then we cannot rely on them to protect us even in our privileged positions. Still, I must say, the non-freedom of some was much worse than the non-freedom of others. If you had the choice of being a white man or a black woman in 1850 or in 1950, is it really a choice? The problem with "we're all in this together" is that it implies we all face the same challenges, and that is just not so. A single parent who relies on childcare for her waitress job has a vastly different pandemic from a telecommuting executive without children, or a well-off retiree enjoying a rising stock market. From January 2020 to July 2021, the S&P 500 stock index was up 25%, while average median income in the same period was up only 5%, and that's if your job was even possible. Even today, as we have taken halting steps to emerge from the pandemic, 2 steps forward and 1 or 2 steps back, we are not all in this together in the exact same boat. If you cannot be vaccinated or you have children under 12, your life is very different than fully vaccinated households and individuals. These high holiday services are socially distanced, at reduced capacity, and masked. They are the best we can do for those who choose to participate in person, and I feel for the parents of young children and everyone else who chose to attend online because they felt that even a greatly reduced risk was still not worth it. It does not take active hatred between different human experiences, like the hatred between Bar Kamsa and the party host, to create tension. White and black, men and women, financially secure and economically unstable, COVID mostly safe and COVID still at risk. It does not take hatred. Conflict can come from indifference, like saying, "My discomfort at wearing a mask trumps your fear for your child." In our family, we've dealt with food allergies for many years, and we've sometimes heard from other parents in our children's classes, "What do you mean I can't send my child with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?" Your inconvenience does not trump my child's right to be alive. And sometimes they still don't get it. The rabbis were indifferent to how Bar Kamsa was treated. And so Bar Kamsa wanted to get back at the rabbis, and he did not care that his revenge came at the expense of all Judea. Explicit racial and ethnic hatred is now mostly beyond the pale, and that is a good thing, full stop. I would much rather be arguing over whether a particular critic of Israel is or is not anti-Semitic, or arguing whether racism applies only to intentional hatred or if it can also be a structural social problem. These debates are much better than burning crosses, lynchings, and legal ghettos for Jews or for people of color. As the tide of unambiguous and explicit bigotry recedes, however, what structural and systemic problems are revealed that grew in that terrible environment? Should we measure these problems by racist intent or by disparate impact on different groups? Supreme Court Justice John Roberts famously wrote, "The way to stop discrimination on the basis of race is to stop discriminating on the basis of race." Some years later, Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor responded, "The way to stop discrimination on the basis of race is to speak openly and candidly on the subject of race and to apply the Constitution with eyes open to the unfortunate effects of centuries of racial discrimination." Recall Elie Wiesel's profound insight that the opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. If we are indifferent to experiences radically divergent from our own, I fear that we will assume that life is fine now for everyone, and it is a short step from there to forgetting that there were ever problems to begin with. In the Jewish imagination, Jerusalem was the shining city on a hill. Quote, 10 portions of wisdom descended to the world, the land of Israel took 9, and the rest of the world took 1. 10 portions of beauty descended to the world, Jerusalem took 9, and the rest of the world took 1. That belief of the city on a hill made it easy, and for some makes it easy today, to assume that the Jews are the chosen people, the others all hate and fear us from jealousy, and the promised biblical lands of Judea and Samaria and the Temple Mount in Jerusalem are worth anything to reclaim. Similarly, the American imagination has thought of the United States as a city upon a hill, an exceptional example to the world of freedom, tolerance, opportunity, and whatever else we choose to emphasize. The first claim that North America was a city upon a hill was in 1630 by Puritan John Winthrop, but the phrase was mostly forgotten until it was resurrected for political purposes by first John F. Kennedy and then by Ronald Reagan. It is the first part of the verse from Matthew in the New Testament that Winthrop quoted, which is the key. You are the light of the world. If you think America is and has always been the light of the world, or that the Jews are an or l'goyim, a light to the nations, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, then any who criticize you are wrong and wicked and foreign and heretical and even evil. Let us translate this to a personal level. The Jewish New Year is supposed to be a time of truth, confronting our failures and making amends. If someone came to me in the weeks before Rosh Hashana in the spirit of self-examination, and they told me that they would love to repent for anything they had done wrong, but in fact they are actually a shining person on a hill, a model for everyone in every way, the light of the world as they have been since they were born, what should I say? Of course, they need to learn that no one is perfect, including them. And if someone came to me relentlessly negative about themselves, focusing only on their limitations and failures, never acknowledging their successes and positive steps, I would try to help them see through the fog of cynicism or depression to legitimate self-esteem for the real good they have done and can still do. If America has not been perfect, it has not been relentlessly evil either, says this grandchild and great-grandchild of immigrants who found a home here. Criticism does not always come from hate, and it certainly does not come from indifference. You have to be engaged to know what is wrong and what needs fixing. If you only listen to your friends, your kamsas, and you refuse to mend your relationships with your bar kamsas, your enemies, if you simply tune them out and throw them out, then the seeds are planted for a house divided against itself. And we'll talk more about divided houses on Yom Kippur. What America needs, what the Jewish people needs, what each of us needs to do better is just this: tough love. Tough love means that I care about you, and that's why I am telling you hard truth about yourself. Tough love is an intervention, making you hear what you need to hear, even if you do not want to hear it. You need to hear from someone who cares when the hatred you learned before you knew it was wrong continues to affect people you value today. You need to be called in by someone who loves you when you're indifferent to others you say are full people. Far too few even bother to criticize North Korea or China for their human rights abuses. Is it the bigotry of low expectations? Indifference to the Uyghurs, who are other in so many ways because they are Muslim and Asian and all the way over there? If I choose to talk about Israel's shortcomings or America's failings, past or present, it is because I love them. And sometimes to make fair judgments, we need tough love. The history our children are learning today is very different from what we and what our parents learned. I believe that this is right and true and important to better understand our past and its divergent experiences, to reduce our indifference today and tomorrow. This is a second challenge for us this new year. From last night, I challenged you to try to change either your mind or your behavior in one way. And today I challenge us to try to give ourselves tough love in some area we know we need it. If we have solved our hatred, we must then confront our indifference. And if we are truly humanists, proud of our particular roots and identities, but also connected to all of humanity, its needs, its rights, and its possibilities, then our orbit of concern should know no limit. Indifference should find no home with us, whether we are Kamsa or Bar Kamsa, rabbi or host. I conclude with the words of Rabbi Sherwin Wine. We are Jews, we are Americans, but above all, we are human beings. Sometimes we forget this truth. Sometimes we think only about our own family. Sometimes we only think about our own friends. We look at other people and see them as strangers. The language they speak is not our own. We turn them into enemies before we give them a chance to become our friends. Underneath the different speech, underneath the different costume, every person is a human being. Every person needs the dignity we need. Every person wants the happiness we want. Every person feels what we feel. Shana Tova, a happy and healthy new year to all. A few short announcements before we conclude our service. I first would like to thank the readers today. They were Cindy Marcus Albright and Michael Marcus Albright, Emil Kowalenko and Anthony Bellotti, AJ Shalom and Jonah Shalom, of relation to me, and Susan Shalom, also of relation to me. I also want to put a special thank you out to our soloists, both last night and today. They were Melissa Arning, Ellen Apley, and Laura Burke, and our pianist, Miles Andrew Sutton. It was a great pleasure to have you as part of our celebrations. You added so much to the live experience, and I'm sure to the online experience as well. Speaking of the online experience, I also want to thank our tech team who helped to make this possible for those beyond this space. They are Mitch Apley, Ken Burke, Jeremy Lynch, and Cindy and Michael Marcus Albright. We have a community service collection we are doing again this year. On the table in the lobby, there are copies of a flyer. This was also sent by mail to all of our Hadash members. We are collecting again for a safe place, which is a shelter for battered women and children. There's a wish list of items on this. Please bring these back when you come for Yom Kippur morning services if you're coming in person, or you can come by and drop them off after the services between 12:15 and 1:15 on Thursday, September 16th, right here in the North Shore Unitarian Church parking lot at 2100 Half-Day Road in Deerfield. Our Values in Action Committee will love to see all your support, and you can also say hello to everybody and wish them a Happy New Year at that time as well. Our family services continue this afternoon at 2 o'clock. They are aimed at children ages 5 to 12. If they feel comfortable coming in person, that's wonderful. If not, they're also available online, and a reminder email was sent out about that this morning. We also resume our services with Yom Kippur, with our Yom Kippur evening service on Wednesday, September 15th at 7:30 p.m., again, both in person and online as well. I'll also mention, both in the lobby and in the mail to our members, was a short booklet called The 10 Days, with a reading and some discussion questions to use to reflect over the course of the 10 days from Rosh Hashana to Yom Kippur. If you like some poetry, some images, and some ideas and thoughts to discuss with yourself, with your family, it's an opportunity to make the most of this time period, this window of reflection. And so once again, I will wish you a Shana Tova, and our service resumes with the last reading on page 9 of the Rosh Hashanah morning service. The last word has not been spoken. The last sentence has not been written. The last verdict, the final verdict, is not in. It is never too late to change my mind, my direction, to say no to the past and yes to the future, to offer remorse, to ask and give forgiveness. It is never too late to start over again, to feel again, to love again, to hope again. And our closing song, which we'll all sing together, both here and online as well, Hevenu Shalom Aleichem, we bring you peace into the new year.
Hevenu Shalom shalom aleichem, Eveinu shalom aleichem, Eveinu shalom aleichem, Eveinu shalom, shalom, shalom aleichem, Eveinu shalom aleichem, Eveinu shalom aleichem, Eveinu shalom aleichem, Eveinu shalom, shalom, shalom aleichem.
Once again, I wish you a Shana Tova, and please turn to the people near you and wish them Shana Tova as well.